This video is the installation video for your LED spoke lights. So in your package, you should have received 2 packages of 9 spoke LED lights and 2 bundles with the battery block and some zip ties for installation. You will also require 3 AA batteries, which are not included. Okay, now first you want to unpack your spoke light set and count the number of spokes that you have on your wheel. I have already counted here and I have 36 spokes, including both sides, all the way around the wheel. So then I've got 9 pieces of green masking tape here. You can use electrical tape, anything that's not going to really leave too much of a sticky residue on the spokes, but you'd want 9 pieces to represent your LED spoke lights to figure out your spacing on the wheel. So I've calculated that 36 spokes divided by 9 lights would be 4. So every 4 spokes I'm going to put a light. So we're going to start here. I like to do the spokes that are in towards the center of the wheel, so I can put the lights in towards the middle of the wheel in case you rub up against something while you're riding. You know you're not going to damage your lights. So we'll start here. So that would be number 1 light. Then we're going to count 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then the front one would be your second light. 1, 2, 3, 4. The front one would be your next. 1, 2, 3, 4, and front one. Now, depending on the number of spokes you have on your wheel, you may have some LED lights that will be either on the same side of the wheel or they may alternate to both sides of the spokes. 1, 2, 3, 4. This one here. Now with the reflector, that is fine. We just put it in behind the reflector. 1, 2, 3, 4, front. This one here. 1, 2, 3, 4. This one here. 1, 2, 3, 4. This one here. 1, 2, 3, 4. This one on the front. 1, 2, 3, 4. Back to our starting line. So we've got those evenly spaced all around the wheel. Now you'll want to take your battery block and install the batteries into your battery block. So you just unscrew the cap on the end of the battery block, slide out the center component and install your 3 AA batteries. And just slide that back in there. And make sure you close it nice and tight to keep that waterproof. Okay, and then the next thing you want to do is take that battery block and you're going to want to install that on the wheel axle using the zip ties that are attached. I like to keep the tail flowing behind the battery pack. It's up to you. So if the wheel's rotating this way while you're riding, essentially I'd want the tail like so. So slip that in between 2 of the spokes. Hopefully you can see that there, and that would just sit on that wheel axle. So you would tighten those zip ties to hold that still. Now if you are putting this on an elliptical unit, it does have a larger back axle because of the internal hub, so you will actually have double the zip ties and it will be wider to put on than this. So just tighten those up nice and center as tight as you can. Make sure there's no room in that, they're not going to slide around. Perfect. And then either if you have scissors or some clippers, you'd want to clip off the excess. Okay, now the next thing you'd want to do is take your bundle of Spokelights, and I try to make sure that they're ready to go, so you have them all in order. Your first light, your second light, that they're not going to get tangled up. So I just double check that. Perfect. And now we're going to connect this to the battery pack. So we're going to slip these in between the spokes. Like so. And take that first one and connect it. And then I usually just make sure everything's working properly at this point. So you do have a little button on the end of the battery pack that you could press. So just press that button once, they'll be blinking. Press it twice for solid. Perfect, looks great. And then essentially you'd want to mount the first light on one of your indicated spokes, but you don't want to pull this cable too tight or have it hanging too much. So, and you've got your zip ties, so you use 2 zip ties per light. So light number 1, I'm going to rotate the wheel a little bit here and try and keep the bundle together. I do find it makes it a little bit easier in between the spokes. And you can actually just maneuver the battery pack up a little bit if needed. So, want to keep some spacing here. I'm going to mount that first one right about here. You could even go a little bit further over, like so, just so that it's a nice snug fit. So I'm going to start there. So 1 zip tie. Around the edge, there is tape here that covers about an inch section. You'd want to put the zip tie before the tape, not right at the tape connection, but a little bit before. Zip tying that on there. And then remove that tape and one at the bottom. And generally, I like to put my spoke lights almost to the nipple on the wheel and have this first zip tie starting about a centimeter to an inch away from the edge. Perfect, so the first one's on, so we're going to rotate these lights through in between again. And locating the second light. Perfect, so we've got the cable here showing us this is the second light to be installed on this one here. And a zip tie again towards that edge. And one towards the bottom. Perfect. And grab those lights again there. Rotate that. Find our third light, next one here. For this one here. Perfect. And just continuing on. Now, it doesn't matter if the cable's just hanging loose here in the middle, it's not going to rub or catch on anything, as long as it's not sticking outside of the spokes. Now, if you don't happen to have a stand, this isn't a stand at home so you can rotate the tire, you can have the bike on the floor and you just have to maneuver the wheel a little bit as you go through. And the next one there. I do see a little bit of a curl in the wire, so I'm actually just going to flip this and rotate it a little bit to get that curl loosened up. And we're about a little more than halfway through. And finding the next light. There we are. Okay, I've got 3 lights left. And we got the last two. Drop the zip tie, grab another. And there is a couple extra just in case you want to put 3 zip ties per to hold them on a little bit better. And we're on the last one. There we are, so those are all connected now. So get rid of the extra tape we don't need. And turn on that battery pack, check it out. Good to go. Now, I always just go through and double check that the zip ties are all nice and tight. Not too tight, but of course you don't want them loosening up and everything shifting. And checking the spacing on your lights as well. And if for some reason you do find that the light may go out a little bit, then it's just the cabling at the bottom portion just needs to be shifted and readjusted. Just because it's stressing. Perfect, those are all nice and tight. So the next step would be taking your snippers and just cutting off the extra portions of the zip ties that you no longer need. Perfect. All your zip ties are cut off and your wheel is complete. Now you're ready to ride. And if you ever need to change your batteries, it is still possible to do so. Just make sure your lights are off and you can still reach in, unscrew that cap, pop the battery part out, and put in your new batteries if needed. I hope you've enjoyed this installation video on how to install your spoke lights. Enjoy your lights.